Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record episode number 250, where today we're going to talk about continuing a discussion that we had on Everything Fastpitch, where we were talking about not having enough pitchers. And we had a suggestion that came from right here in the room about ways that maybe we could address that. I think it's going to really stir the pot a little bit, but I think it'll be a fun discussion to have. So before we get into that, let's talk about our sponsor first, the Anderson Bat Company.
Everything Fastpitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the fast pitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for Everything Fastpitch, and you'll get a 20% discount.
And again, please make sure you take advantage of that EFP20 discount. It's a great way for you to save that additional 20% on an already very affordable product. Also, we want you to become a patron. Go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. You go to the website, click on a couple of things. It's going to take you through the steps. We've got a great group of patrons that we really do appreciate that have been supporting us for a long time. We would love to see a few more people come on board and help to support the podcast moving forward. So if you see value in what we're doing, you want us to be able to continue to do it, please make sure you go to patreon.com/everythingfast. A little bit ago, we had this discussion on Everything Fastpitch about how there's not enough pitchers and that it's clearly becoming epidemic level, I believe, at the travel ball and school ball levels, because one of the product that we're seeing on the field and what that means for the level of competition and the quality of pitching, but also the amount of social media action about we need a pitcher, let's pick up a pitcher. We got a great team, but we just don't have enough pitching. And Dan brought up something that I don't think either one of us had really thought about, was that in the baseball world, they came up with a solution. I think part of the solution was wrapped up in the idea of what's better for the players, what's healthier for the players. But I also think part of it is wrapped up in the reality of they needed to solve the pitching numbers problem. One of the things in baseball, we see it all the time now, where like a college program might have 10, 12, 14 pitchers on their roster. The typical high school program's probably got 10 or 12 kids that pitch on their roster. But in the softball world, it's not uncommon for us to have a team with a pitcher or maybe two. And so the baseball world, because the argument was that baseball pitching was so damaging, came up with pitch restrictions a long, long time ago at the youth level. And when you watch the Little League,
protect the kids, right?
When you watch the Little League Baseball World Series, you'll see the pitch count meter. And one of the strategies that you'll see that really comes into play at that level is if your ace pitcher that's totally unhittable pitches enough pitches, they have to take a day or 2 or 3 days of rest before they can pitch again. Well, because you can't use the same pitcher all the time, guess what you have to have?
We got to make more pitchers, Tori.
Yeah, absolutely. What I firmly believe, and I think what we'll probably get into a little bit here, is that there's no way that we could ask parents or coaches to be the ones to do this. I think this is something that needs to happen at the sanctioning level. That if you're playing in a USA tournament or a PGF tournament or an Alliance tournament, and we could have different limitations, different regulations for each age group potentially, but a pitching restriction, a pitcher can only pitch so many pitches, would go a long way towards solving our problem of not having enough pitchers. Either A, it's going to force us to develop more pitchers, or B, it's going to force us to have less teams, because if your one pitcher can only pitch the first 2 games of a tournament, and then you've got to drop out because the rule says that when she gets to 80 or 100 or 200 or whatever the number is, she can't pitch anymore today, means your team's got to go home. I think that's going to go a long way towards solving our lack of pitching problem.
Tori, I think that we might be on to something, right? I mean, it's going to be one of those situations where if we don't have enough pitching, the pitchers we do have are going to get overworked.
Right.
They're going to keep going until they shouldn't, and then they're going to keep going a little bit more, and then they're going to be hurt. All this stuff, too, I think gets a little bit kind of foggy when we start trying to assess what pitchers have done prior to weekends, too.
Right.
If I'm the only pitcher, I've got to be ready. So I've got to do all my workouts, and I've got to do all my So what I've done leading into that weekend is also probably overdone because I am the only one. Again, I think that trying to create a situation where we've got more kids practicing that skill, I think would be healthy. I think that's good for everyone.
Right.
And I think it is going to be a step back in the game because obviously there's not a whole pile of kids that are immediately ready to contribute in the circle, but in the grand scheme of things, we'll have healthier frontline kids, and we'll also have other kids that are, getting a chance to
that are capable.
Yeah,
right,
and that are getting to experience, the pressures of being in the circle, the dedication and accomplishments along the different plateaus of working towards being one of those pitchers, and that we've got a situation where only good things are going to come of it, maybe.
Right. Well, and to my way of thinking, I was the old school coach that came up in the days where we had convinced ourselves that somehow pitching was not as hard on the arm, not as damaging, or even, the argument was it's natural, it doesn't hurt the arm at all. Well, we now know that's not true. Now, is it as damaging as throwing overhand? That's still up for debate, but there's plenty of studies, we've talked about them here in the past and on Everything Fastpitch in the past, that are showing the clearly measurable damage that's done to the female shoulder from pitching in excess. And to your point, I think we can never control what a kid's doing in preparation. There's nobody that's going to be able to legislate that, but we could still create a system where we're legislating what's happening in the games, in the tournaments, at least in the sanctioned tournaments. Now, obviously, if you play a friendly little thing with 3 other teams and it's unsanctioned and you guys just get together to play, all bets are
Nobody's
off.
Keeping track. Yeah.
But if we're looking at it now from a sanctioning body perspective, they would like the idea because it would mean a whole lot more work for them and a whole lot of arguing and fighting with teams that are getting ratted out for breaking the rules and over pitching kids. If we don't do something, we are going to continue down this path, and this path that we're on is not healthy. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the competitive nature of the game, and it's going to cause us some really continuing, worsening problems moving forward. I've talked about it a couple of weeks ago that there's no question in my mind that we're headed towards having to get used to the fact that we're watching a lot of really bad softball because we don't have enough pitching, and the only solution I think is going to be is limitations. I think Stan hit this nail right on the head, that until we get to the point where a pitcher knows she only gets to pitch and pick whatever number it is, 200 pitches.
Three games, 200 pitches.
Yeah, we'll say 200 pitches on Friday, you can't pitch on Sunday.
From the hitting standpoint, that means they're going to try and throw lots of strikes, Tori.
Right. But the flip side is then, if that's the number, if you pitch 100 on Saturday, you can pitch another 100 on Sunday, for the whole weekend. And again, I'm just throwing numbers out there. It might be 300, it might be 400, it might be something. But right now, there are kids that are pitching 600, 700, 800 pitches in a weekend.
Easily.
And a lot of those kids, I have one that I'm working with now. I work with her on her hitting, but she's also a pitcher. And she's going through some serious, shoulder problems, has been for quite a while. And, she's in her high school season now, and she really loves her high school team, really trying to do everything she can to help them win. And the way it works is she is the one pitcher that has a chance to win. They have another girl that pitches that doesn't really have a chance to win. So whenever they're playing, of course, my girl wants to pitch because she wants her team to win. She wants her team to be successful. Well,
even when she might not.
There's no nice way to say it. She's doing damage to her arm. She's hurting herself.
Yeah.
There's no way of stopping that except for the high school organization saying, okay, way back when, this will tell everybody how old I am. When I first started coaching in Wisconsin, this is the 70s, we had a pitch limit for softball. And it was, if I want to remember right, I think it was like 7 innings in a calendar week. Coaches were on their honor, but you always were at risk of somebody, ratting you out if you broke the rules. And everybody back then was, again, we weren't playing nearly as many games. It was a lot less serious business as it is now. But, for us back then, we were still trying to win every game. Getting to the state championship was still a really big deal. So all the same motivations were there that are there today. But it worked. When you had, for example, one year we had my ace pitcher, Wendy Wolf, who was pitching for me at the high school at that time. And then we had another girl, Kim, who was good, but was nowhere near as strong as Wendy. going into the sectional round that weekend, we had to play 2 games in one day. And she couldn't pitch both games. The rules did not allow it. So it was, how can we use her enough to win the first game and still have enough innings left in the second game?
Right.
That if we needed her to win the second game, we would have it.
A little more strategy.
Yeah. And, it was just one of those things. So it is doable, but it requires a whole fundamental core change. So that's the point I'm going to make. Now, I'm taking the advocate position on this. We need to create pitch limitations at the high school level, in the travel ball world, and again, somebody who's more of a pitching expert than me. We can get the panel of experts of Michelle Smith and other people that have been around it forever. The instructors, the Danielle Rubins and Barbara Reeds and people like that of the world can all weigh in. We can get the coaches on some sort of a discussion and come up with a number. And whatever that number is, just like it is for the Little League Baseball World Series, if you pitch this number of pitches today, you can pitch this many tomorrow. If you pitch this many today, you cannot pitch tomorrow. And it's going to solve the problem because, as I said at the very beginning of today's episode, either we're going to develop more pitchers or we're going to have less teams. And either way, the problem is solved. Right now, if we keep doing what we're doing, it's just the definition of insanity. We're going to keep doing the same thing and hope for something different to happen, and I don't like the way we're going.
Well, but currently too, Tori, I could have 6 pitchers, but one of them is going to guarantee my win, and the other 5 are maybes. So I'm going to probably end up overdoing my not one until it doesn't work anymore, right?
Right.
Well, there's rules.
Right, and that's where the rules are important. And then you have to be a smarter coach and look at it and say, okay, can we beat this team in the quarterfinals with Sally when Mary's really our ace? And can we maybe use Mary for 1 inning in this game if it's really close at the end to get the save, and then have her still be available to throw 6 innings in the championship game? Or are we just going to keep doing what we're doing?
I'm afraid that without more conversations like this, Tori,
we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to keep going in this wrong direction. One of the things that, I keep having this argument with people that, I'm just so old and old-fashioned, I don't understand. Well, no, I do understand. I used to watch really good softball a lot. Not that long ago, I watched really good pitching a lot. Now I see a lot less really good pitching. 50 years of my life never looking at social media. 10, 12 years ago, I started looking at Facebook, and now what do I see every time I open a Facebook page? We need pitching. Well, if everybody needs pitching, then obviously there's a problem. So
we need pitchers.
We are going to start pushing this agenda forward. We need pitch restrictions in the game of fast pitch softball, or we're headed for a really big problem at some point in time.
It's going to be good all the way around, Tori.
All right, so that's going to wrap up number 250. Make sure you support the Anderson Bat Company. Take advantage of that EFP20 discount. Also become a patron. Go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. Go to our fastpitchprep.com website. Order your Square Cuts training discs. And then also take advantage of the YouTube channel and the blog posts. Make sure that you contact us at everythingfastpitch@gmail.com or fastpitchprep@gmail.com with questions, comments, ideas, or suggestions. We're always looking forward to hear what you're interested in having us talk about. And I'd love to hear your take on pitch restrictions. So for Coach Don McKinley and our producer Stan Lewis, this is Coach Tori saying thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week.